What's up, space pirates? This is your Admiral, the endlessly edgy Dr. Disaster. And unfortunately for Doctor Who these days, even when they score a win, they have reached the point where it just doesn't seem to matter at all.
No matter how big a splash you make in this world, eventually nobody gives a shit.
As this article here says, Doctor Who's greatest episode in years proves it's broken beyond repair. By all accounts, this latest episode, Lux, was heads and shoulders better than anything they've done in a long while. In fact, it has drawn enough positive reviews on Rotten Tomatoes to put the second season of Ncuti Gatwa over 50%. It's still rotten, but that is quite an increase from the 30% that last season is currently sitting at. And yet, despite some of the favorable feedback that we've seen for this episode, Lux's overnight ratings were the lowest in the history of the 61-year-old show, and I'm sure that the committed fans of Russell T Davies and modern Doctor Who are really upset by this.
That's unfair.
But that's too bad, because Doctor Who, or at least this modern iteration of the show, has done virtually everything in its power to abandon its audience in a misguided attempt to appeal to a new audience. And now we have the figures from the first episode of this new season. The full 7-day figures are available, and folks, I heard a lot of excuses over the past week and a half from Russell T Davies sycophants. They assured me that actually the overnight numbers for that first episode, which were the worst of all time before the second episode came out, but they assured me all we had to do was wait for the 7-day numbers, and we would be surprised because everyone was still watching the show, they're just watching on the iPlayer now. Well, it turns out they were full of shit, clear up to their eyebrows, and we can pretty much guess how Russell T Davies and his sycophants will react to this unpleasant news. Alright, me hearties, make sure you hit the like button on this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, and also, please consider supporting the channel by becoming a member. This Friday, the first section of my novel, a dark fantasy story called The Darkest Heritage, will be available for members only. The book itself will be coming out soon on Amazon, but in the meantime, if you want to support alternatives to mainstream crap like Doctor Who here, which has abandoned us, well, consider becoming a channel member for as little as $5 a month. In any case, let's rap about Doctor Who and see where the viewership is sitting for the new season's premiere. We're going to read about it here in this article from the Radio Times. It says here, the 7-day viewing figures have been revealed for the first episode of Doctor Who Season 15, The Robot Revolution, with the episode being watched by 3.571 million viewers. I'm going to show you how bad that is in just a second here, but let's read what the Radio Times has to say, because they won't give you the most damning context. They can't help but admit that this is bad, that these are bad numbers for Doctor Who, but they still avoid facing the most awful truth. It says here, the episode's ratings are similar to those for last season's Boom, while they are down on last season's premiere episode Space Babies, which was watched by 4.01 million. Further ratings will be revealed in future for viewership over the episode's first 28 days since release. I like how they say that as if there's still some hope that the show has any chance at recovering from this, as if anyone gives a shit about 28-day viewing figures. The 7-day numbers are the standard that all Doctor Who shows have been judged by for time immemorial. But let's take a look at the important context that they don't want to show you. Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor now owns 9 of the top 10 worst rated episodes in the history of the show, and I suspect that this next episode, Lux, is going to overtake the number 1 spot. But let's actually look at the list, which I have compiled. We'll go right down in order. The worst ratings ever, at least for right now, came for the episode Dot and Bubble, which word of mouth was really bad on, because that episode was all about how horrible and racist white people are, even out in space, even in the future. That episode only hit 3.38 million viewers, but anyhow, number 2 is the only Jodie Whittaker episode on the list. Actually, it's the only non-Ncuti Gatwa episode. Legend of the Sea Devils only managed to bring in 3.47 million viewers, and before Ncuti came along, we thought that was as bad as it could get. But anyhow, number 3 on the list is the episode that was the second to last from the prior season. The Legend of Ruby Sunday only hit 3.5 million viewers. Rogue, the episode where Ncuti Gatwa starts crying like a little girl with a skinned knee as he passionately kisses another man, behaving in a way pretty alien to the way that the Doctor has always behaved before. That episode only got 3.52 million viewers. And then here is where the robot revolution finally fits in. The season premiere of the second season for Ncuti Gatwa only got 3.57 million viewers, which, as the Radio Times said, is pretty similar to the episode Boom, which is right behind it on the list, as you can see here at 3.58. But I feel like the context that this latest episode was the 5th worst in the history of Doctor Who, I feel like that's pretty important context, and that the only reason not to include that context is because it is embarrassing. But all the other episodes on the list are Ncuti Gatwa episodes. For even more context, prior to Jodie Whittaker and Ncuti Gatwa, only 2 episodes in the history of the show ever dropped below 5 million viewers. Those were both in Peter Capaldi's final season, and by now, Ncuti Gatwa can't even break 4 million for a season opener. That is absolutely pathetic, and goes to show just how far Doctor Who has fallen. Rumors are, of course, that Doctor Who will be canceled by Disney after this year. There's always a possibility it sticks around like a bad rash or something, but here's the deal. It needs to die. The show needs to rest, and it should only be revived when someone with a truly fresh take, not just race swapping or gender swapping the Doctor, but someone with a truly fresh take needs to swoop in and give the show a facelift. Until then, it needs to be permitted to rest in peace. But I'm going to leave it there. Drop your mockery of Doctor Who and Russell T Davies into the comment section below, and we will talk there. Thanks for watching, me hearties. If you haven't already, your Admiral is inviting you to subscribe to the channel and become a part of the crew. Life as a space pirate may not be glamorous, but there's always plenty of booty.